Welcome back to Beyond the Buckets. Really happy to have my guest today, Sara Quilici Giles. Welcome to the program.
Hello, hello. Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
It's an honor to have you on. I'm glad we got it set up. But I like to always start the show with the fun facts of something that most people would not know about you.
Fun fact, I have really short pinkies. That's what I always tell people. My pinkies are abnormally short. I know it's a podcast, you can't see, but yeah, most people's pinkies come up to like the last line of their ring finger, and mine are extra, extra short. No idea why. I always say it's because I'm a twin and maybe she got the long pinkies and I got the short pinkies, but super short pinkies.
Oh, I never really noticed that. Obviously, I looked at your hands, but now that I look at my hand, yeah, yours are kind of short. So that
Yeah,
is a fun fact. You're entering your third or fourth year at Los Gatos High School.
fourth year, entering the fourth year.
Fourth year. So tell me how it's been entering and running your own program. You've been coaching for a long time, been around the game your entire life, and now you get the opportunity to work at such a great program. Tell me what that's been like for you.
Yeah, it's been fantastic. I have felt right at home at Los Gatos since I first got there. And I always say I get better at being a varsity coach every year, not necessarily the basketball side of it, but the running a program side. My first year, it was just like, what can I do with my team? How can we win games? How can I prove myself? And now it's like, how can my program be more inclusive? How can we incorporate the JV team and the varsity team? And how can we, increase interest in girls basketball out in the city of Los Gatos? And so it's interesting. I feel like I get more comfortable every year. I've had not a lot of player changeover every year, which is also helpful. And so, yeah, I think I'm just kind of finding my groove. Each year is just a little bit easier.
Yeah, what's been the most challenging part as you have began that process entering year four?
Most challenging part is interest in girls basketball in the town of Los Gatos. This year on my team for JV and varsity combined, I have 17 kids without making any cuts. And so it's Los Gatos is a very affluent area, and so a lot of kids end up going to private schools. A lot of kids who are interested in basketball in particular, and then also club volleyball is very popular in Los Gatos, and so a lot of kids that maybe were super athletic in middle school and played multiple sports, when they get to high school, they just want to focus on one sport, and it happens to be volleyball, and so they have a freshman team, a JV team, and a varsity team with a plethora of very tall and athletic girls. And unfortunately, it's challenging because they don't want to play multiple sports. And so there's only so much interest you can drum up and, asking kids if they're interested. And it, unfortunately, they're just not. And so I feel like when I was in high school, even though it wasn't too long ago, every kid played 2, 3 sports. And now I think kids, especially girls, are really just focusing on one sport at a very early age.
That's a really good point. And the seasons overlap so much, especially with elite girl athletes, whether that be volleyball. The club volleyball season directly coincides with the club basketball season. And so they'll actually be playing tournaments during the basketball season. So if you play club volleyball, it's going to be very difficult for you to play basketball during the same season. Secondly, soccer is a big sport, and that's in the winter. But like the three major sports for boys is football, basketball, and baseball. Well, the three major sports for girls are volleyball, basketball, and soccer, and so those directly coincide with one another, and it makes it really difficult. Um, I think you remember back maybe when you were coaching at Valley with me, Ronica Stone. She was an elite volleyball player, but she was
Mhm.
also one of the best basketball players in the entire section. And so there would be times where she didn't come to a lot of the basketball stuff, and we had to try to make it work somehow because she was just such an elite athlete, and obviously went on to play up at Oregon volleyball and had a really great career. But it just goes to show you that it's just so hard, and the elite athletes. You make such a good point.
Yeah, it's really tough. And I'm willing to work with any athlete that wants to do both, but it's unfortunate because they don't even want to try. And so it's kind of tough. I feel like it takes the wind out of my sails a little bit. But then there are the few, that do both. And I think they have a great time when they do it. I the culture of my program is so important to me. And I think that my kids have a lot of fun. I think we work really hard. I think we have a lot of fun. And I think anybody who does give it a chance, they end up enjoying it and they don't regret it. But it is hard for young kids to understand how to prioritize their time and how to manage two sports and school, and it's very tricky. So more power to them if you can do it.
For sure. And talk about the culture you're trying to continue to build within Los Gatos. It's got a very good culture of winning with all their athletic programs, but how have you kind of put your own stamp on it? You've got great energy. Anytime you're in a place, you just provide a lot of energy, and you're really curious about how other people are doing, and you've always been very selfless, and the 15, maybe even 20 years that I've known you. So talk to me about that personality and how you're able to integrate it in your program.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, Los Gatos does have a culture of winning just for the school. The three fall sports for girls, volleyball, water polo, and field hockey, are all very deep into the playoffs right now. And so, we like to continue that for girls sports in the winter also. And so for me personally, I always say where I have a lot of room to grow as a basketball coach is with the X's and O's. I've grown up around the game a lot, and I have a lot of experience coaching and being around a lot of great coaches. But for me personally, I could always do better with X's and O's. I think I am a great relationship builder. Like, I genuinely love every single person on my team. And I tell them every year, I don't care if you're a good basketball player, I care if you're a good person. And I want you to come into the gym every day with the mindset that we're going to work hard and we're going to get after it. I said, I don't care if you miss every single shot, but if you're giving me 100% of your effort, then I can take that. And so I think for me, I try to make it really fun, but also challenging. And I want the kids on my team to understand that sports are vital for life success. Like, those that can achieve success or even just are able to play sports as children and as young adults, they're much better multitaskers when they get older. They're much better with their effort and their attitude and working on teams when they get to jobs later on in life. And I think it's really important, the life skills that they learn now. Like, I'm not here to win basketball games. And I tell my team that every year. If we win, that's great, but that's a plus. It's not the goal. And so I think it's really important to, especially girls, I think young girls need to be built up. They need to be told that, like, somebody's proud of them and that they can do it. And so I think I am very hard on my team, but I heard Doc Rivers say one time, or maybe it was Don Staley, I can't remember. I am coaching the player that I know you can be, not the player that you are now. And so I always tell my team that I'm hard on you, but I love you and I will love you, as long as you work hard and you show up every day, just like I work hard and I show up every day. And so I try to create like a family atmosphere first.
Well, I will say that the relationship piece, now that I've been coaching girls for, I think this is my ninth year, has been the biggest change that I've seen. The X's and O's I already had, or have always thought I could hang my hat on that. But
Mm-hmm.
when I first started coaching girls, I found out that the relational piece was much more bigger than what I knew on the basketball court. And so as I've grown, that's the area that I've grown most in, is cultivating good relationships. And then what you're talking about, they can now trust you, and then they can go out there and they can play as hard as they possibly can because they trust you. This person has our best interest. It's not really about winning basketball games, and winning basketball games is very important. But if you do the things, what you're talking about, the process in which you guys are trying to do things, if you do that over and over consistently, well, the basketball games are going to win. You're going to win, but also you're going to win. There's the score of the game, and there's a score of the game in life, and you would much rather be winning in life because of the things that you learned in the program. And that for me has been the biggest change over my coaching career, is understanding the differences between those two things, and really how much the relational piece ends up helping the stuff on the court.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think your energy is contagious, right? And so if you have positive energy, then that is contagious. If you have negative energy, it's just as contagious. And so I think I try to get my team to understand, like, hey, we're all in this together, and you being negative, maybe you're mad at yourself, but like, it's coming across like you're mad at the team. And so, like, let's get your energy right. Let's get my energy right. And, like, let's, move forward together in a positive light.
Yeah, that's another thing. not being negative, being positive, it's hard to do because, as basketball coaches, we're taught to point out most of the negative things that they're doing.
Hmm.
But there is also a lot of positive things that they're doing on the court, but it's not our duty all the time to point out every single one of the positives because we're only working on the things that are gonna hurt us potentially. Just like we both have kids, so we're trying to keep them safe from certain things because we already know it's gonna go bad. So we're not praising them for all the great things that they do, even though we probably should more, but we're trying to keep them away from those negative behaviors, which will ultimately affect them in the long run.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So just to piggyback off that, I try to get my team to praise each other for those positives. So that way I don't have to be negative and positive. Like if you see your teammate do something great, tell them. Tell them. Doesn't it feel great when your teammate tells you you do something well? Like that's got to feel so great to you. So like be that person for somebody else, and you can never communicate too much. And so I always tell my kids like that's on you guys to lift each other up too. That's not my job all the time. I'm happy to do it sometimes, but for the most part, like you guys got to be the ones that are encouraging each other too.
Right. And having great assistants, you were on my staff a while back, and I know you have a great staff at Los Gatos now, but having really great assistants also helps because if you got them to lean on, like you can be the asshole if you need to, and then they can really lean on those others. Just today, one of the players wasn't having a good day. She was like, "Hey, have you checked on so and so?" And I was like, "No, I haven't." She's like, "You might want to do that because she's kind of going through some things." I'm like, "Oh, well, I would have never known because the kids don't always come to the head coach. Just like they
Hmm.
might not go to their parents all the time, they might go to somebody close by. They might go to an uncle or aunt or somebody or a friend before
Hmm.
they would go to the parent or the head coach in this instance. So I just think that's a very important part of it as well.
Absolutely. I'm very lucky with my assistant coach. He's a teacher on campus, and he was helping out with the girls basketball program before I got there. And he always does like mental health checks like once a week with everybody on the team. Just like walks up to, a couple different people during warm ups at practice, and just like, hey, how's it going? Like what's going on with school? What's going on with your life? Like, are you good? Type of a thing. Because you're right, as the head coach, you're thinking about a lot more big picture stuff, and so like the day to day can sometimes get lost. And so it is really important to have people that can kind of pick up not the slack, but can kind of handle that part.
Yeah, for sure. And one thing that I've tried to do is get a pulse of the group. So in our 10-minute, dynamic stretch before practice and our form shooting, I'll just kind of go in and check in. Like if it's a Monday, say, hey, what was the best part of your weekend? And then it's not yeah, how was your weekend? Oh, good. And then you can move on. Well,
Hmm.
it's an open-ended question. So now we can actually have a conversation. Oh, I did this. And now it can spark something else. So asking open-ended questions, continuing to be in a relationship is important, as you've mentioned.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So you are a new mother. You have a beautiful daughter that just came this past year. I think she's almost 7 months old.
Almost 7 months. Yeah.
And so you've been balancing that. Your husband also coaches basketball as well, who has also been on this podcast. But tell me how that has been early on, trying to figure out how to raise a child and still give your all to all these other kids that are depending on you as well. Tell me how that process has worked out for you so far.
Totally. So very typical COVID baby, born in April of 2021. And so usually April would be a very excellent time to have a baby as a basketball coach because the high school season would be done and, I wouldn't have to coach AAU. This year was not the most excellent time, right in the middle of our league season. And all we had was league last year. And so I had McKenna, my daughter, on a Friday, and I was back coaching the next Friday. And so it was such a short season. And I love my kids so much, my team, that I didn't want to take more time than that. I felt like I was taking too much time with a week off, even though I had a horrible birth and like just it was very stressful and tiring and all that. But a week was about all that I could give. And so McKenna came to practices with me last year. She came to all of my games last year with my husband. Luckily, he took last year off. And so that was nice. And now that she's a little bit older and our seasons have started, it's just a lot of logistical planning. And so it's, thank God for my mother-in-law. She's just the most helpful human. And so if it wasn't for her, both of us wouldn't be able to coach. But now it's just kind of figuring out like her day to day and where our practices possibly are back to back or overlap, and who's going to have her and who's going to take her. And I think it's almost, I have a different perspective coaching girls now because I have a daughter. And so it's like I was once a teenage girl, so I thought that I was enlightened, but now I think that I have a daughter. I just want her to know that moms can do all the things. Like, just because I'm a mom doesn't mean that I can't be a basketball coach too. And like, I want McKenna to know that, you can work hard in life and you can do all those things. And like, I want the girls on my team to also see that I'm a mom and I can be a coach too. And like, I tell them, when I'm here, I'm here. And like, these 2 hours a day that you're with me, like, you're getting my full attention. So I'm going to work my little tush off for you, and you're going to work your tush off for me, because we all have other things going on outside. But it's important that, you all understand that when I'm here, I'm here. And like, it's hard for me to be here, to be away from my daughter and to like get all this coverage. And so I think it's almost, I appreciate the time more coaching. And so and I think my team appreciates it too, because last year, I mean, I was in and out with having the baby, and then I had to miss some practices, didn't miss any games after that, but it was hard for us to kind of be focused. And so I think this year it's interesting and it's challenging. It's so tiring, but I really wouldn't have it any other way. And thank God for my husband too, because he's very involved. He's such a great dad. And I think we're both understanding that we're both sacrificing to be parents and be basketball coaches, but we're both so passionate about it. I mean, that's ultimately what brought us together. And so we love that about the other person. And so I think for us, it's a lot of constant communication and a lot of logistical planning, but I think we're making it work the best that we can.
You played for Coach O at San Jose City. Did you get any pointers from her or anybody else on how to manage that while coaching?
Yeah, I did play for Coach O. I love that woman. Her kids were already grown at the time. And so I think that is, for her, she's a big role model, because a lot of the other female coaches that I know don't have children. And I had a previous partner before my husband, and he told me that if I wanted to have kids one day, then I couldn't be a basketball coach. He told me that it just wouldn't work and that I would have to pick. And clearly that's why we're not together anymore. But it just, I see Coach O doing it, and she's been coaching at City for years and years and years when her kids were young. And so it's just kind of one of those things where you just got to see one person do it. And then, like, you see it and you're like, I can do it too. And I can do it not necessarily better, but I can do it differently and I can make it work. And it's not easy, but you work as hard as you can. If it's important to you, you'll get it done. And so McKenna, so important to me, the most important thing in my life, but basketball also so important to me. Coaching is what I'm most passionate about in life. And I can't imagine what I would be doing if I wasn't a basketball coach. And so it's just kind of like, it was never really a question of whether I was going to coach. It was more of just, how am I going to do it, but not if I'm going to do it.
Sorry, we got our landscapers here.
No problem.
So tell me about, like, what do you think is going to change now that you have a kid? Like, how are you going to try to maximize your time so you're not always focusing on Los Gatos? Because prior to that, you can spend 3 hours in the gym. You can spend all day in the gym if you needed to, and now you obviously can't do that. So I'm interested to see what you've done. What do you think is going to be different now that she is here? I know for me, I just try to incorporate my family as much as possible into the program. So like this weekend, we're going to have a team retreat for Friday through Sunday, and my kids are going to be there for a large part of it, and my wife, so they can see me in that light, because they only know me as Coach McSwain, the guy that is always trying to get the best out of them, and we're going hard and we're doing all these things, but they also need to see that other side. But at the same time, like, we had practice early this morning, and that works out well because now I get to see my kids. I get to go pick them up from school, and now we don't have practice from 7 to 9 tonight because we did it 6:30 this morning. So that's ways that we've been able to at least try to mitigate some of the length away from our children and our family. So how are you gonna try to manage those same things as McKenna continues to get older?
Absolutely. I'm very, very lucky that my husband's job is a great job. He has a great job and he does well. And so instead of going back to work full time after McKenna was born, I was lucky enough to find a new part time job that I absolutely love. And so that allows me to spend more time with McKenna and still be a basketball coach, because the thought of having to go to work from 8 to 5 and then go to practice from 6 to 8 and then come home for 3 or 4 months out of the year during high school basketball season is long. So the thought of having to do that, I couldn't do it. Like I would have never seen McKenna, and I'm still breastfeeding, and so that in itself is very difficult to be away from her even at all. But I mean, we're making it work, and so I think I'm very lucky. I only have to work part time, and so I still am able to go to practice for 2 hours a day. But I agree with you. I think it's so important for the kids to see the family side of me, and also for McKenna to grow up and see that coach side of me. And so I told my team that maybe once every 2 weeks, I would have to bring McKenna to practice with me. And I told them that when that happens, you need to mentally be focused and keep each other in line, because if I have to step out of the gym for a minute, or, during a drill, if I have to walk around with her in the stroller, like, I need you to hold yourselves accountable. And so I think that's going pretty well. Also, I think my practice planning has become more intentional because of that. I sometimes used to wait until the last minute to plan my practices, just because I was very busy with work and everything. But now, like, if McKenna is taking a nap or something like that, I'm like, I should plan my practice right now, because otherwise I might not get a chance before I have to leave. And there's nothing worse than walking in the gym unprepared. And I think my team can tell when that happens, and I don't want to be that coach. And so I think I have been more intentional that way, and just kind of almost more like long-term focused, because, there's not a lot of downtime. McKenna's teething right now. So when she is awake, I almost have to hold her all the time, which is not how she was as a baby for the first 6 months. And so I think yeah, you're right. You can't be in the gym for 3 hours. You can't hold them after practice because they haven't gotten something. Like, I got to hustle out of there, especially because my husband coaches at the same school as me. So our practices sometimes go back to back, and maybe somebody's at our house with McKenna for, 30 minutes to an hour, or maybe she's in the car. Maybe he had to bring her and I have to bring her home. And so I can't have her waiting in the car, waiting for me, because I need to yell at my team some more. And so I think I'm just a little bit more thoughtful, and I think I'm a better planner because of it.
For sure. Why don't you give a 3 minute backstory on your upbringing and kind of, how you became the person you are now?
Definitely. I was raised by my single father and my older brother, and I have a twin sister. And so it was just the four of us, really, growing up. And my dad, my dad had to work really, really hard for us. My mom had a lot of mental health issues, and she didn't pay any child support. And so my dad supported my twin sister and I from the time we were like 2 or 3. He was our stay-at-home dad, and then we just stayed with him basically forever. And so there were lots of days where my dad just didn't eat dinner because we didn't have the money for it. And so I think I've always been kind of aware of what's going on. I think I'm very empathetic. And for me, I didn't know we were poor when I was a kid, but when I started to realize it, the older that I got, the more I really appreciated my dad and like everything that he was doing for us, working multiple jobs and like literally sometimes not eating. And so just so we could. And he was the dad that was always there. Like I went to Del Mar High School just like you, and the parents at Del Mar were not really involved. There were lots of my teammates who I never even saw their parents. They never came to a game, and my dad never missed one. No matter what was going on, no matter what he was doing, he was very supportive in that way. And I saw him just grinding and working so hard. And because of that, I always worked hard. And I got a job when I was 16, and I've been working ever since. And trying to make my own money and kind of make my own way in life, and just to, so he didn't have to worry about us all the time. And so I think it's why I work so hard. My sister and I are very adaptable people. I think that we can, kind of work anywhere. Like my husband has lived in maybe 4 or 5 places his entire life. And I think I've lived in like 25 places, just like having to move a lot and share a room my whole life, and just, always go with the flow. I think on my tombstone, they'll put, yeah, I can make that work. because no matter what comes up, yeah, I can make that work. I can move on. I can move forward. I can find a positive. I can definitely make that work. And so I think it's why I'm so hard on my team. A lot of the kids on my team, if I ever meet their friends, they say, "Oh, you're the crazy one," or "Oh, you're the yeller," or "You're wild." And it's, yeah, I am. And I will own that. But I think it's because of, how I was brought up and how I was raised, just to always work. It's always working hard, working hard, working hard. It never stops, And so if I can get that across to my team too, like, hey, I need you to work hard, then that, I feel like I've done my job. And so for me personally, I don't expect life to ever be easy. And I would love to give McKenna the entire world, but I also want her to work for it too. And so I think it's kind of a balance. It's a teetering line that you cross.
For sure. Yeah. I think the upbringing that you have really shapes the person that you're going to be. My mom was a single parent as well, and I used to see her. I never knew that we were struggling, but when you look back on it as an adult, you see, oh wow, we were at the flea market selling things so we could eat. Or my mom
Mm-hmm.
didn't come to a lot of the games because she was working. She always made sure that, I had what I needed, but she, in between getting out of school, she'd come home, make dinner, and she'd have to go back out to her night job a lot of the times. And I didn't really realize that I started working at 16 as well, so I can, start paying for things. But she hit it very well. Like, if there was a new Jordan or something coming out, she would find a way to make sure that I was able to get the same things as the kids that had two parents. And very, very similar to Joe. And it's shaped, who you are. And just like my mom, just watching it shaped who I am today, and the work ethic that is needed to be successful. And we weren't given anything in our life. We've had to work for every single thing that we've gotten, and that is the reason why we are the way we are with our teams. And sometimes the kids in our programs have not been able to go through some of those same things, or their parents might not have gone through the same things, so they just don't understand that there are kids out there that need these opportunities and are working for them. And you guys that may have had a better upbringing are not utilizing your gifts, talents, and abilities to your utmost potential. To your earlier point, I'm not coaching you for what you can do. I'm coaching you for what you can possibly do later and be greater than just where you're at right now. And so, I have a lot of respect for your dad and older brother. They did a great job raising you and your sister, and it wasn't hard on either one of them. Jeb was on one of the early episodes, and
Mm-hmm.
just hearing his testimony on how everything went is just an amazing. So really, your whole family is amazing from where you guys came, and where you were able to kind of persevere through all of that. And you also have a very special relationship with your sister, being a twin. But you guys are so similar in a lot of ways, but you couldn't be more different in a lot of ways too. So why don't you talk about some of the some of the just talk about that relationship with your twin sister.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. So my twin sister Allie is my very best friend in the entire world. My dad always says the difference between Allie and Sarah is that if Sarah knocks you down, I'm gonna help you up. I'm gonna say I'm sorry, and I'm gonna help you up. But if Allie knocks you down, she's gonna step on your throat. And so it's very true. Like, Allie is very no nonsense, straight to the point. Like, really has sometimes no filter, and like really doesn't care what you think. And I'm the people pleaser of the two of us, definitely the less dominant one in our relationship. And so we played sports together our entire life. I like from under five soccer to high school volleyball and basketball. Like, it was always the two of us, and we loved playing sports together. And then it's funny because she dabbled in coaching a little bit, but now she's a high school basketball official and a junior college women official, and she does a great job, and she loves it. And I could never do what she does ever. And so it's nice that she's still involved in the game as well, and just like I am, but we can be involved differently. We used to argue the way that siblings do, the way that sisters do, for every single day for probably most of our life. And then Allie was diagnosed with cancer. She's been 5 years cancer-free now. So she was diagnosed 6 years ago, this week, actually. And that kind of just changed everything. It made both of us grow up a lot faster than I think maybe we were intending to. And we just have a different perspective on life now. Like, we don't argue almost at all anymore. And I think we really appreciate all the time that we have together and how special being a twin actually is. Like, when you're growing up as a twin, the only thing that's really in the forefront of your mind is that you don't have your own identity and that nobody knows your name. And the biggest question you get asked is, which one are you? And it's hard. It's hard to not have your own identity growing up, especially when it's just our dad. So our dad was with us and like, he's doing the best that he can, but like, we have to play on the same sports teams and we have to be in the same class and we have to have the same friends. And like, it's challenging to kind of figure out where you fit in. And like, are you the pretty twin or the athletic twin or the smart twin? Or, there's all these labels going around. And so I think for us, it was hard to kind of figure out who we are, like, who is Sara, who is Allie. And I think once Allie got sick, it was just, life kind of became simpler almost. And like, what mattered became a lot simpler. And so it's been really nice for her, obviously being cancer-free for so long. And our relationship has maintained where we were. We didn't go back to arguing every day because she's not sick anymore and we don't have to worry about it. It's just kind of like, I think we're better people because of it. Definitely better sisters. She's a fantastic mother. Like, for me, it's been so nice to see her have kids before me because I get to kind of, see what she's going through and I can ask her any question that I want to. And it's great because you said, we are so different, but also so similar. And I can't imagine not being a twin. People ask that all the time, what's it like to be a twin? And my smart ass response is, well, what's it like to not be a twin? Because I don't know the difference. And so it's one of those things where it's my favorite part about my identity, besides being a mom now. And so I'm just so thankful for her. And, growing up, we both didn't know how poor we were, right? Like we had talked about, but then as adults, we see it now. And it's just great that we had each other. Like my built-in best friend for life. Every first day of school, every first day of a team practice, like I never had to worry about making friends because my best friend was right there with me. And, we were going through it together. And so I think it's a really special, special thing for both of us.
For sure. Another special thing is kind of the relationship, not only that you and your husband have, but your sister is married to, one of our best friends growing up. He's also a coach. Your dad coached. Your brother played professionally and in college. And it's just a whole basketball family. I've never really seen anything like that where your twin is married to the best friend of your husband, who everybody coaches, and we've known each other for 20 plus years. So talk to the listeners about like, how does that all work? But I know it gets competitive within the family, but tell me about that whole thing.
Yeah, it's wild. Whenever I tell people that my sister and I are married to guys who have been friends for 20 years and they're both basketball coaches. And, it's kind of funny because growing up, I always knew that I would be a coach of some kind. My basketball skills were never quite there, as you say. Junior college was about like the peak of my basketball skills, but my mind was always there. Like I could always, know what I was supposed to do, but physically didn't mean I could do it. Right. And so I always knew I would be a coach. And my dad was a coach forever. Like you said, my brother played for years and years and years. I just remember literally growing up in a basketball gym, like every weekend, every off chance. My dad reffed a lot actually when we were growing up as like a second job for him. And so it'd be Saturday spending 8 hours in the gym, sitting in the bleachers watching my dad ref. And that's how it worked. And I think that's why my sister got to be an official, because she really liked that and I did not. But so it is funny because basketball is our Bible, like it's our religion, our family, because it's all we talk about. I mean, we talk about other things, but like when we're together, it's how's your team doing? How's your team doing? Like what kind of players are you having this year? And what are you going through that's challenging? And like, it's nice because my husband's a basketball coach. That's how I met him. And I love that we talk about basketball. I love that I can come home from practice and I can say, I want to run this type of set, or I want to run this type of defense, but I don't know how to teach it. Like, what do you think? And like, we just can kind of, go back and forth. And like really encourage each other's passion that way. And then it's even more so when my family gets together, because my dad's a coach, my sister's a ref. So it's great when we are watching basketball on TV or something, because everybody will be like, Allie, was that a foul? Or Allie, was that a travel? And she'll give like the very official definition of why it was or why it wasn't. And so she kind of keeps us all honest that way. And then the rest of us are like, ooh, hey, rewind that. That was a great set. Or, oh my gosh, I want to run that defense. Or did you see that? And so it's really cool, I think, for us, because we all care about it so much. And we all have such different perspectives I've probably been around the game the least, and I have 10 years of coaching experience. So it's kind of wild to see my dad's 40 plus years. And then my sister's husband he was a former Division II head coach, and now he's a Division I associate head coach for women at San Jose State. And so it's like we all have different levels under our belts and different experiences and different philosophies. And it's so cool to talk about, because I love basketball and I would talk about it all day, every day if I could. And it's just great that my husband is not like, oh, still basketball. We're still talking about basketball. Like, he is very into it too. And so it's also great because my dad has, of course, supported the coach in me because he's a coach. And so when I followed in his footsteps, he was thrilled. And my sister was so happy. But for my husband to be like so proud of me and really appreciate that side of me has just been so fantastic. And then it works out so great that everybody's friends, they all get along. So family get-togethers are just fun, and it's nice for us all.
Before we continue, your other microphone, is it on your ear? Because every time you
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Oh, sorry.
Just
Wonder if I can, is that better if I hold that?
better. Yep.
Okay, cool.
So has Allie ever refed any of your games?
Yes, actually. So CCS does sportsmanship games. It's like the week before the season actually starts, where you can have games. They do sportsmanship games. And so the refs donate their time to do those games. And so my first year at Los Gatos, we played Del Mar, which my coach, Bill Murray, is still at Del Mar from his first year coaching varsity was my freshman year. And so he's been there a long time. And so he asked if I wanted to do a sportsmanship game my first year. And I thought that would be a really cool way to like start off, my career at Los Gatos. And then he was like, hey, what do you think about Allie reffing? If she'd be interested in that. Like, I'm okay with it if you're okay with it. And so she's reffed our sportsmanship game every year. We didn't have one last year because of COVID, but so she reffed the first year, the second year, and then this will be the third year that we do it. And so she refs those games, which is really fun.
That's awesome. Have you got on her about anything? Obviously the game doesn't count, but if it did count and she made a bad call, would you let her know?
Absolutely not. No, 100%. Allie is, like I said, the dominant one in our relationship. And she would give me the Allie Quilici Cooper death stare, and I would sit down and not say a word the rest of the game. And I know that. So no, but also like, I really trust Allie's judgment. Like, for the most part, I think she's a really good official. Like, of course she's human and she makes mistakes, but like, if she said she saw it that way, or if, you know what I mean, I would be like, yes, ma'am, you got it. Okay. Yes, Captain, salute. And so, yeah, no, I don't think I could ever possibly get on her.
But I've seen you coach, so you don't have that same respect for all the officials. So
Some of them really got to earn it, but I have gotten a lot better. I think that's one area I've really grown in as a coach is like my first year coaching JV at Cupertino was 11 years ago. And I was like a foot stomper and just a yeller, just like almost inappropriate, the things that I would say to refs. Cause JV girls don't get the best officials as it is. And we were bad that year. And so I was very immature and very hot-headed, we'll say. And I think each year I'm still very hot-headed, but I think I try to have conversations with the refs instead. The game has slowed down a lot for me coaching. And so I think now I can kind of pick and choose my battles, number one, learn their names, number two, which is like so important. And then also ask questions instead of just yelling at them, because to yell at them and make them a little angry, like they're human. And the next 50-50 call might not go my way if I've already pissed them off this game. And so I try to be, and I want to understand, like, well, what did you see there? Or why, what angle did you have? Or did she get her on the body? Did she get her on the arm? Like, I'm just kind of curious, what did you see there? And so I think that's helped me a lot. And that's credit to Allie, because I think my first year at Los Gatos, she came to a bunch of my games and was like, you can't talk to officials that way. Like you can't. They're never going to give you the time of day. They're never going to respect you. Like you can't do that. And so then I was like, well, what do I say then? Like what should I do? Tell me what to do then. And she'd say, talk to them, have a conversation, ask them questions. And I think that's really helped. It also helps that they know I'm her sister. Like a lot of refs will walk up to me and be like, oh, you're Allie's sister. So nice to meet you. And like she has a pretty high standing in BASO, the association. Like a lot of people know who she is. She's done very well. She gets, CCS finals games and she's high up in the organization. And so I think that helps me also, that they come in, to Los Gatos or wherever they see me. And it's almost like we're friends already. Like there's a friendly vibe going on. And so all credit to her for that.
For sure. Yeah, I would say early on in my career, I was the same way. I was definitely a foot stomper. I still might be, but I wear soft-soled shoes now, so you can't really hear it. But back in the day, kind of when you dressed up more and you have the hard bottoms on, you could definitely hear it
I
throughout the
remember.
gym. And sometimes there would
Mm-hmm.
be scuff marks on the gym floor too. But yeah, I mean, understand, like you made a great point about understanding their name, speaking by name, asking certain questions. Hey, what did you see on that one? And it's okay to disagree if
Mm-hmm.
you have it in a respectful manner, because you might have a different angle, they might have a different angle, and like you mentioned, like you're not going to get the next call if you're just hounding them about every little thing, and so picking your spots is going to be a very very key thing if you want to get some consistency, and I've watched myself on film with officials, like when Nate Ramazani was on here. Nate Ramazani's actually teed me. He's one of my really good friends. Uh, and this is when I back in the day when I was coaching JV basketball. But you have to understand that they're people too. They're getting it from both sides. No matter what when they leave the gym, the 50% of the group is not happy. And it's really not their fault because our teams turn the basketball over. We miss free throws, we miss layups, we miss jumpers, we foul
Right.
on defense when we're not supposed to. So they're just trying to do the best they can, and they just have a really difficult job. Like I used to ref too, and I just remember how like when people came at me, how I would come. I would remember so and so, no matter how much of a nice person you might have been before or after the game. I remember what you said to me, and for some people that kind of sticks in your head. So
Totally. It's why there's a major ref shortage right now because nobody wants to ref. Nobody wants to get yelled at in their spare time. So, I mean, and they're human. My favorite thing is when a ref will be like, I missed that one, my bad. Like
yeah,
that's just like a good, working relationship. And like you're human, you can admit that. And like, you're not supposed to get every single call. And I'm okay with that. And so I think it's just kind of nice when, it's like, hey, you're out here doing a job. You're doing the best you can. I'm doing the best I can. Like, that's how it should be.
yeah, for sure. If they say they missed it, there's really nothing else that you can say.
Hmm.
I was blocked. I didn't see it. And okay, all right. Well, if somebody goes at you after that, there's really nothing you can say. Well, you got to see it. No,
Yeah.
it's not like they're trying to miss it. Just like we're not trying to coach bad habits. It just happens sometimes. What would be the reason why you ever stopped coaching? Because obviously basketball has been a part of your entire life. It's remained in that. But would there be any reason that you would stop coaching early?
Um, you know, my husband and I have talked about it, of course, because like we want more kids. And I think right now with one, it's not easy to coach, but it's doable. But I think with two and maybe three, if we end up having three kids, I think that would be hard to coach while they're little. But I think I'd eventually, if I had to step away, I think I'd like to go back to it. In a perfect world, I think my husband and I would coach together. So that way, like we could still do it, but the time commitment would be less for both of us, like we would both be there. And so, our kids could come to practice and we could kind of tag team that if we had to, or, if we coached the same team, then it's a lot of time spent together, but I would like it. And so it's hard though, because he coaches boys, I coach girls. And so I think ultimately having more kids would be the only reason that I would ever stop. But I think I would definitely come back to it. It's just such a big part of my life. Like last year with COVID, not having it through the winter, it was so weird. Like so weird to not have basketball practice in November and December, and to have like the actual holidays where you like do things with your family instead of worrying about practice on Christmas Eve and all that. And so I thought I would like enjoy that time off, and I really didn't. Like both Giles and I were like, like what are we supposed to do? It's the first week in November. We should be in the gym.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think ultimately just having more kids, because the time when they're little is time you don't get back, and so I luckily, like I said, I don't have to work full time, but if I did, then that would be hard too, to be a mom and be a coach. And so, I mean, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But for now, like, I think I'm in it for the long haul.
For sure. And who knows, it might change as you get older, but like the last, not having basketball for that long, like high school basketball, was actually a good thing for me. I got reinvigorated because I literally been doing this since 2004. When I was
Hmm.
coaching with your husband at Del Mar. So since 2004, I've been coaching every single year till now. Like that's a long time. So that was a really much needed break. And so this year, when we got back on a regular schedule, I was like, man, this feels good. But I forgot how much it is. It's like it's a lot of work. I forget how much that goes into it, whether it be scheduling, okay, with it games, practices, communicating with the athletic directors and the facilities and all that. Then you got to get the
Hmm.
team gear, uniforms, practice schedules, and each one of your kids, if you've got 12 kids on the team, each one of them have their own individual issues that are going on. So you're like a administrator, you're obviously a coach, you're a therapist, you're a time manager. Then you also have your own family because when CJ was born back in 2018, he was born in February in the thick of basketball season. So
Hmm.
I missed two games towards the end of the season, and then we went into the playoffs, and we ended up winning CCS that year. But he was there. He was a little boy. I mean, that the picture still pops up. Like he was just a little boy, and he was 2 months old when, or not even 6 weeks old when we won CCS, and he's in my arms. But yeah, so I was it. But the difference is Maxine was born March of 2020, and I was there every single day of her growing up because we didn't have anything the rest of 2020. Like the playoffs got shut down, and then we were just in
Hmm.
shelter in place, and we were. So I seen Maxine. I literally remember everything. I hardly remember anything from when CJ was that age. I remember things now, but when he was that little, I look at pictures. I'm like, man, I don't even remember those things, but I remember every day of Maxine. So it'll be interesting. I still love it and I enjoy it. I think I'll always be a part of the game. I've given myself, I want to finish 20 years at Valley if I can. So still got 10 more years left at the very minimum. But at that point, they're going to be, you know, 12 and 14. And so they're going to be doing whatever activities they do, if it's sports, if it's band, I don't know. And then at that point, you can kind of weigh in on if you want to continue coaching or, you know, just focus on what they want to do. So I don't know. But there's just a lot that goes into coaching. It's so stressful. And then we didn't even talk about like dealing with parents too. Um, you know, I try to build good relationships with parents too, but there's always parents that are going to give you a hard time, and you've got to learn how to manage that. So, how have you been able to manage dealing with parents over the years?
Yeah. So luckily, I also am the same as you. I try to build my relationships early, and like I'm having my parent meeting tonight for our season, and I just try to lay out, the groundwork and the expectations, so that way we can kind of all be on the same page. I make my parents sign a contract. Not that it really like, it's not, you know, it's not legally binding or anything, but it's, something that like I can say, well, you're aware of my expectations. And, luckily I didn't even have any parent issues until my second year, like the end of my second year. And I remember my AD called me. A parent just got upset after a game and, came at me in the lobby and fingers in the face pointing like we need to have a meeting with the AD. But my AD was like, well, let me just say congratulations on going this long without a parent complaint, probably a school record, like as a joke. So I think that if you do right by the kid, then you usually do right by the parent. And so my big thing is that I don't like to talk to parents about anything related to basketball. I don't want to talk about I'll tell you my philosophy, but I don't want to talk about why we're running X's and O's on offense, what we're doing on defense. Like, I don't owe you that conversation. I will absolutely not talk about playing time. And so that's what parents always want to talk about, is playing time. Luckily for me, I got really low numbers. I only have 10 kids on varsity this year, and most of them are going to play. And so it's, not a huge thing, but then the ones that do play, it's, why aren't they playing enough? Or, so it's one of those things where now I'm a parent, so I think I kind of understand it from a different perspective also, but I try very hard to, be stern with what I think and how I feel. And, like, let the parents know your daughter's old enough to have these conversations for herself. So like, that's, if I can get that across at the very beginning, like, I understand your kids are growing up and you've kind of fought battles for them in the past. However, she is 14, 15, 16, 17, sometimes 18 years old. Like, she can have this conversation with me herself if she wants to have it. If she wants you there, you can be there. But otherwise, I tell parents, like, if you have a problem, but your daughter doesn't have a problem, then there is no problem. If your daughter has a problem, then there's a problem. And so I think it's a lot of setting expectations and, being stern with what, like, the program rules and the program requirements. And, I tell parents that I am fair, but I am not equal. Like, this is not JV girls basketball or middle school NJB. Like, they're not playing equal minutes because they don't deserve equal minutes. So, but what they're getting is fair. And I tell them that I make my decisions based on the good of the program, not on the good of your daughter or the good of myself, not on one single player, but on the good of my team and the good of the program. And so, yeah. And I haven't really had a lot of problems. I also have, I think the 48-hour rule I got from you about, we don't talk about the game 48 hours before because I'm preparing for the game. And then we don't talk about it after because I'm decompressing and I'm evaluating. And so I think that's been really helpful also. Because one parent tried to, like, just say, hey, how's it going? And then she was like, oh, 48 hours. I'm sorry. And I was like, no, I mean, we can talk. I don't want you to talk to me about basketball. I did have a parent text me in the middle of a game once, like at halftime of a game, about why I was doing X, Y, and Z. I didn't see the text until after the game, luckily, and I never responded. And so I think that was the stance I took on that was like, I'm not even going to open this up for dialogue or for communication. Like, I'm just never going to respond. And so I think that was a good decision. We ended up being fine after that. But like you said, you can do your very best and you can be the kindest human on the planet with the best of intentions. But I mean, parents just want what's best for their kid, right? And if they feel like you're not doing that, then mama bear, papa bear comes out. And now being a mom, I totally get that. But at the same time, like, I think I would want McKenna to fight her battles for herself. Like, I think I'd want her to be a strong enough and confident enough person to, approach a subject like an adult, if it came to it.
That's very well said. And, teaching, like, work harder, for that would be my advice to my kids. Like, hopefully I can be objective in seeing if they're being mistreated or something, then yeah, of course, the parent needs to step in
Mm-hmm.
and defend their child. But if they're not being mistreated, and usually, as you mentioned, the kids know, like the kid normally they're looking in the meeting like I don't want to go there
Right.
because I know I'm not better than Jenny. I know I'm not better, and there's only 160 minutes in the game,
Right.
so a high school game. So if we just had 5 players, well, we can everybody's going to play their 32 minutes, but it's not going to be equal. The best players are going to get probably 30 minutes, and
Mm-hmm.
only if they're in foul trouble or you're up 20 or down 20, that would be the only time that they're probably going to come out. Then you got a
Right.
second tier of the players; they're going to be in the mid 20s. And then you got your 6 and 7 players; they might be in the 15s. So if you're 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, it's going to be very difficult for you to get into the game. And so if you did like a survey of your team, how many minutes do you want to play? Well, they're going to be like 250, almost 300 minutes if you had a team of 12. And well, I don't have that time for you. There's nothing that I can really do. But setting the expectations with the parents is key. Not talking about playing time with the parents is key. The kids need to be able to bring that up, and of course, you can join the meeting, but we're not going to sit here and go and play tennis, going back and forth with your child's playing time. If you want to come watch the practice and see how they're playing and participating in practice, feel free. But they're just at that point, they're just probably not better, or there's some things that they can work on to get to where they want to get to. So it's it's interesting. If I've had great parents at Valley Christian, we've had very minimal issues. Club basketball too, but I think it's what we've been talking about the whole time is there's always going to be something, but you have to be able to approach it with an open heart and an open mind, and understand that you're speaking to somebody's child or about somebody's child, and always being respectful. But if you do that, I think you can minimize some of the bigger issues, especially if you're just treating the kid the right way and in a fair way, and not mistreating them.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I like what you said about practice too, because I tell parents all the time, playing time is earned in practice. And you don't see in practice that we run the same set 15 times and your daughter still doesn't know the play in a game. Like those things. We say that this is what we're trying to do on defense, yet your daughter is running around doing things by herself when the other four kids are trying to do the same thing and she's doing something on her own. So it might look good in a game, but that's not what we're trying to do. And so what the hardest thing I think with a lot of parents is like them yelling from the stands things
Mm-hmm.
that we're not trying to do. Like parents that are like, yeah, ball pressure, get up, full court, blah, blah. It's like, no, we're running back on defense right now. Like this, we're not going full court, because if she's doing that on her own and all other four people are running back on defense, then she gets beat and now everybody has to rotate, and that wasn't our defensive plan. And so it's like little things like that where parents think maybe they know better, and it's tough because it's like you're not in practice with us every day. You don't know that that's not what we're trying to do, and that's we're actually trying to do the opposite of that. And to have multiple cooks in the kitchen, it just makes it a lot harder for a kid, because what do? They go, oh, I want to listen to my parent, but oh, I know I should be listening to my coach. So it just kind of puts them in a tricky situation also.
And they're like, shoot, shoot, shoot. And they're like,
Oh,
no, no, no.
yes. No, 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 no.
Or the rebound, rebound. The kids aren't trying to not rebound. It's hard when they have so much stuff going on. But you guys
Absolutely.
are promoting your program pretty well. So is there any social media things, or how can people get in touch with you if they heard the podcast and they feel inspired to reach out to you?
Absolutely. Yeah. We are on Instagram, Los Gatos Girls Basketball. I think the handle is like LGHS_girls basketball. And so, yeah, we're on Instagram, just, trying to get our name out there, and just show people, how much fun we can have and how hard we're going to work. I think social media now is so important for that kind of thing. Like, so people can kind of follow along with the season, like younger kids, especially, and parents and all of that stuff. So I think it's great to, have a presence on there. I love following the Valley Christian Girls Instagram. So I would say that I was influenced heavily to do that for myself as well. So, yeah, definitely follow us on Instagram.
What about your personal stuff?
Oh, yes. I am also on Instagram, Sara Giles _. So yeah, follow me, follow you back. It'll be so fun.
And is there anybody that should be on the Beyond the Bucket show? And before you give me your answer, you have to make the connection so we can get them on.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So I was actually thinking about this. I'm glad you asked. So my new job is a part-time job for a small nonprofit. It's called Bossy, and it stands for
Mm.
Bay Area Women's Sports Initiative. So it's BAWSI, Bossy. And it's a really small nonprofit that was started by Brandy Chastain like years and years ago. And so we go to like low-income elementary schools and provide sports for girls, like activities and introduction to sports. So because the research has shown that girls, by the time they get to middle school, do not feel confident enough to try out for a sport that they've never played before. And so girls in low income areas that don't have maybe the resources that some other kids have to play sports when they're younger, by the time they get to middle school, they just don't feel confident or courageous enough to try out for a team. And by the time they get to high school, it's the farthest thing from their mind. And so Bossy's whole goal is to go in and like give kids, girls, the confidence to be a little bit more coordinated and have we do like a word of the week. So it's like, you know, how to be courageous and have integrity and all this stuff. So that way girls feel confident to, you know, play sports when they're older. And that's, I mean, as girls basketball coaches, all we want is for girls to continue to play sports. And so I think that, I think one of the co-CEOs of Bossy should come on your Beyond the Buckets podcast. I think it'd be really fun. And I would be happy to put you in touch with both of them or one of them. But yeah, I think it'd be great.
Yeah, love to. I always try to get, for whatever reason, basketball is obviously more male dominated, even on the female side. And I think we need more female voices. That's why I'm glad to have you on. And I really tried to get a lot more females on the show. It just happens that more men have been on. But like you mentioned earlier, having a daughter has kind of changed my perspective as well. And I think that it's very important to empower women, especially at a young age. So I'd love to have them on. But
Okay, definitely.
thank you for joining this show. It was awesome. I even picked up some tidbits on just management stuff with your teams that I really liked, and just really appreciate you for coming on, sharing your story. You got a great story, and you're doing really fantastic things, and I'm just so very proud of you for the person that you are now and the coach that you've become as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I definitely wouldn't be the basketball coach I am without you. You gave me my first real coaching job, like gave me a chance, and I will forever be grateful and indebted to you. So I super appreciate being here. I agree. More women need to be, I'm the only female coach for winter sports at Los Gatos. And so it's like, I definitely know what you mean. It's male dominated no matter what. And so I think it's important for women to share and to continue the conversation. And so I'm super grateful to be here, and I really appreciate you.
No doubt.